we've got one more truck here that has this cargo that is the output of this sprint. If, I guess I didn't put this up, I could put this up here. This is the output here, the potentially shippable product. But we talked about, actually we didn't talk about the sprint review yet, but that's what this stop sign here is. It's owned by the PO, the product owner, and the product owner again will make a decision, yes or no. And the decision here is, should we accept the output of this build team and deliver it to the stakeholders? Okay? That is part of the sprint review, or this is also called the sprint demo. Does anybody have any experience with a sprint demo? So the demo, we'll talk about this a lot more, but this is where you actually show what you've done in the sprint, this output. You demonstrate it. Software development, it's easy to conceive, to picture the idea because it's all about what did we build, and you show it in the actual development tool. Like in SAP, we show it in SAP. It's obviously it's not a production environment, it's a QA environment, but it is the actual working software that we intend to promote to production. So they get to see it in the system. What we'd like to say about the sprint review is this is not about PowerPoints, it's not about talking about what we did or any of that. It's about showing what we did. Give them a chance to actually see it work and give us feedback. Feedback is, as I'm sure you're beginning to see, feedback is very, very important because every sprint, we have this sprint review, gives us a chance, I like to say, to recalibrate to that critical path to this point out there that has delighted customers, okay?
Sorry, I keep throwing
No,
stuff
no.
out there. Would it be helpful, so in our area, we're like delivered like the internet, so it's hard to conceptualize what we deliver.
Mhm.
Would it be good if we get like a rack layout of, here's all the racks and here's all the racks we filled out in the data center that do things you already have that you just didn't know, because it's capacity planning. So would it be helpful, like, so like Kevin's and mine area, it's a rack of gear. You're already using it, just we're expanding pieces of that. Would it be helpful, you think?
I think so.
To give a visual representation of,
Yep.
here's all the stuff and
Yep.
because I don't think they even know what it looks like.
Yeah. That's part of it, is just
Okay.
getting it in front of them
Okay.
so that they can see what it is that you've done. You know, so they can see the value and give you feedback. You know, in some cases, they may not be in a position to give you feedback technically that, you know, that is usable for you, but when it is, it's really important because it will recalibrate that critical path.
Thanks, Craig. I'm sorry for all the.
Not at all. That's what this is all about.
Trying to apply it to physical reality stuff.
Yep, and I want to help you do that. So if this answer from the PO is yes at the review, then it'll get loaded. If it's no, most likely it'll go back into the backlog and get changed, okay?
Iterative process.
Yep. Now, I have not myself seen a lot of no's, but we do see a lot of yes, but. We see that a lot, okay? Yes, we like what you did, but you know what? It's kind of like, you know, I wrote this software for quality technicians to be able to record their test results, okay, and take a decision, a usage decision we call it, but to say this is good material. But we show this to healthcare and they said, we love this, but we need a two-part digital signature, you know, because we're under FDA rules. This is a regulated product that we use. So we say, okay, so we got to go back and we got to write another story. This is something that we will look at for future sprints to include that in the software as well. Okay? So if the answer is yes, this ends up getting delivered to the stakeholders. Okay? So one thing I didn't write down here on the build team that I like to do is that we say that this is cross-functional. And in software development, this was kind of really a big deal for us because it's a really different way of thinking. You know, when I started in software development a lot of years ago, we used to have a floor of testers and a floor of analysts and a floor of developers. And we do things waterfall, you know. So we do all the analysis up front, and maybe the analysts are green and the developers are red and the testers are blue. So we'd have these floors and it'd go from floor to floor. But this is a cross-functional team. That is to say, every person that you need in order to deliver on this sprint is resident on that team. Every skill that you need is resident on that team. And then, of course, we've talked a lot about communication. So let me put this in the middle here, this short feedback loop from the stakeholders all the way through. It's absolutely critical to delivering what we need to deliver to the stakeholders here. We talk about communication saturation. That is to say that a lot of these events really help us be transparent, okay? The daily stand-up, this is every single day. The team comes together and says, this is what I'm working on. I have a problem. You know, I have an impediment. I can't meet my commitment to the sprint because my laptop died or whatever. It's raising these things so that we don't lose days, we lose hours maybe, you know. So, and sprint review, and we're going kind of, let your mind go back to when Dee was talking about the pillars of the empirical process: transparency, inspect, and adapt. So sprint review is all about inspect and adapt, because this is where we see what is the output of this build team. That's the inspect from a shareholder's standpoint, from the shareholder's perspective, and then we adapt to that. We write some new stories, as I mentioned. We change things. We want, and that's the cool thing about Agile, is that the backlog is dynamic. It changes over time. And this is one of the things that I've recognized as significantly different between Waterfall and Agile, is that Waterfall assumes the backlog is healthy because they do all of their analysis based on the backlog as it is up front. Agile assumes that it's got some issues, that maybe people didn't write the stories correctly, or their requirements, or they didn't realize, or technology is going to change in the middle. So Agile recognizes that it's not healthy in the beginning, but it expects it to get healthy over time, because we keep pushing the feedback into the backlog. And the feedback is new stories, updated stories. It keeps growing over time so that we keep recalibrating our direction so we get to delighted customers. Does that make sense?